Hello, everyone. Today we are going to make a podcast with Paul. So, Paul is from Columbia Home Services. Thank you, Paul, for coming today.
Thank you, Mustafa, for having me.
Today we are going to talk about AI in trade businesses. When the AI is actually coming after, especially after ChatGPT, and people just expecting that many industries will be impacted and disrupted with the AI. I think the home service is the one that nobody's expecting to be replaced by AI, but there are also big opportunities in here to leverage AI. We are going to talk these things with Paul today. So, Paul, can you tell me about yourself and the Columbia Home Services in the very short time? You actually created one of the biggest roll-ups in this industry.
Sure. So my name is Paul Adams, and I'm the founder of Columbia Home Services. And we are predominantly a residential HVAC, plumbing, and electrical company. Um, we're based in 7 states throughout the US. And we started our platform in September of 2023. So it's hard to believe nearly 3 years have
Yeah.
passed. We have about 23 different brands that we're responsible for and in or around 1,000 employees. So we've seen tremendous growth over the last 31 months, mostly driven through a combination of inorganic and organic growth. But we're really excited about what the future has. But one of the biggest subjects that I think we're all facing in home services is what role does AI play?
Yeah, before coming to AI, so you've been, I think, in this industry for more than 30 years, right? What is the biggest shift you have ever seen? How can you compare it with the AI and its impact on this industry?
I'm not so sure anything really compares to AI's impact on the industry. I think what we've seen as far as contractors are concerned is technology has made us over the years more sophisticated, but we still have a long ways to go. There are people that are slow to adopt. There are those that it's hard to keep them from trying the next best thing. But I don't think that there's any singular thing that I can remember over the last umpteen million years, it seems, in the trades that is as monumental of a change as the way AI. I think if there's something that would compare to the evolution of AI, it's probably when we migrated off of traditional software, hardware applications and moved to software as a service. I think those of us that have been around a while remember how difficult it was to work on a legacy hardware software platform and customize it and the amount of hours and people it would take. And then when we had the opportunity to go down the software as a service path, it just made implementation so much easier. It actually enabled us to try different types of technology or different platforms or applications. So I think that's probably the thing that resonates with me was that shift to SaaS. But when I look at what has occurred over the last 12 to 18 months and the structural shift that is impacting home services with the evolution of AI, I think it's something like I've never seen before.
Yeah, so when we were talking before, you were telling about that also the users' experience are changing. You are spending lots of money on the leads and the marketing, and but the users are searching not from Google anymore, but asking directly to the ChatGPT. So how does this affect you? Do you see that a downside or an upside in your business?
Well, I think there's going to be some growing pains with AI, but I think the easiest way to describe what's going on is that this traditional Google driven lead engine, where you have SEO plus PPC plus LSA, and we pay countless dollars for these types of services, they've, in theory, have been majorly disrupted by the rise of what I would just call customer answer engines like ChatGPT. And I don't think as a contractor, we ever saw that coming. I think we've done things for so long and we work with digital marketing providers. And I just think that there's a lot of things that have changed so fast Like when I think of SaaS, I think SaaS took a little bit more time to be implemented and for people to
Mm,
come up to. I feel like AI has taken us by like a storm. And for us operators, the symptoms are really clear right now. We have
mm,
lead volume softness. We have a much higher cost per lead. And when we think about inbound call flow, we have less predictability. So it's not cyclical, right? This is structural and it's
mm,
costing us thousands and thousands of dollars to try to figure this out. I think it's something that we have to embrace and we have to pull back. In our first discussion that you and I had, you posed this kind of question: what does a smart marketing strategy look like for a
mm,
contractor in this environment? And I think we've got to own the demand and we
mm,
have to stop relying or renting the traditional way of advertising.
mm,
And we have to see that this huge shift in AI search and Google AI summaries and aggregator dominance, these are the things that are compressing the organic lead flow. So we just need to understand that's a reality. I think the ones that are going to come out winning, which is my hope for our
mm,
great people that are running our company, is that we reduce the dependency on
mm,
things like Google. And we build this sort of business where a large percentage of the revenue comes from that existing customer base. So you have to be farming it, mining it, and then you have to be relentlessly boring about your membership programs, meeting your service agreements. And
mm,
then you've got to drive financing and leasing. Then there's all these other things that you could do organically, your reactivation campaigns, your referrals,
mm.
working with realtors or property manager channels, anything to grow your business, because this whole chat GPT versus Google is real. It's
Mm.
absolutely real. And this is where I see directionally things are going.
So your industry is actually not very cold calling type of business. I don't see that pattern myself. Mostly it's referral based, and you already told about some strategies how to make most of this referral based engagement from the customers. But also customers are different, right? Some generations you told earlier that they like calling people. Some just want to engage with a phone. They want to do everything on the website, online, or just chat from the system. So you need to serve all of them. How to just create an experience, and also how can the AI can help you to create that experience to serve multiple generations.
So, big question, right? How to serve different generations of buyers.
Yeah.
So, this is what I call, or I've coined, the dual path customer acquisition sales model, right? There are people in the market with different homeowner behaviors. So I think I mentioned to you the first time we talk about my generation of Gen X, and
Mm,
that we really want relationships. We want reassurance. We are open to phone conversations with the contractor. We want to trust the technician when they come into the
mm,
home.
mm,
We're accustomed to that kitchen table type of sale, and we desire this sort of high touch interaction, right? So there are those customers out there. Maybe they're baby boomers, maybe they're Gen X. The other customers that we have out there, like millennials or Gen Y, they want speed, they want
mm,
transparency, they want self service, they want online scheduling, they want text communication, they want visibility into what it's going to cost or financing slash leasing. They're essentially digital buyers, right? And the
mm,
thing is that contractors were not and are not prepared for both of those buying behaviors. So, what I see as the core reality is that basic residential HVAC is really becoming a hybrid retail experience.
mm,
Consumers, we know, expect call it the Amazon level convenience, but people like me want that contractor level trust. So we might be a little bit more patient with speed or the convenience factor in exchange for trust with the contractor. But what this is doing, it's creating some level of tension across multiple generations that are buying our products and services. So I think what we have to do as contractors is we have to have an understanding that there are relationship buyers that want the longer consultations, they want the brand familiarity, someone I could call if something's going wrong. And then you have this other group, which are your digital, what I call convenience buyers, right? They're the millennials. They're the ones that they want that, like I was saying earlier, online scheduling, the speed, the low
Mhm.
friction, the fast decision making. All these great things is what really closes them, is how you have this sort of digital credibility. And they don't like longer sales visits. So what they're really looking for is they're expecting the HVAC contractor to really act like a Tesla, act like Amazon, act like
Mhm.
Uber. And that's a high bar to achieve. So I think where I see contractors making a very common mistake is that we're taking that digital buyer and that relationship buyer across those generations, and we're jamming them into one box. And
Mhm.
we're forcing them to go with, call it one sales process and one communication style and one booking flow and one estimate format. And that just naturally creates friction. So the outcome that I would love to see our company achieve is really build two very parallel
Mhm.
experiences. One that's like human centered. So you have your front end where a Gen X buyer is going to want a live customer service rep maybe to pick up the phone.
Mhm.
Maybe somebody like me wants more empathetic communication. Or maybe I want to see the technician biography. And then there's this whole in-home process, very educational to the customer, options, good, better, best, maybe a financing explanation like in person, where you're essentially just building all this trust. And then you have the follow-up in that sort of old school process where there's a phone call or what we used to call a happy call to make sure that the customer's satisfied and that
Mhm.
they're investing in the long-term membership program to maintain their system. And that process we've seen throughout the years, we get pretty good close rates, we get good loyalty, we obviously get referrals. But then what we need to do is simultaneous with that first path, with that type buyer, we have to have path B. And that's that digital purchase experience. And so again, it still breaks down into what's the front end. Can they online book? Is there a text communication? Is there a financing pre-qualification? And then you have the sales process, and that's where you're giving the customer that digital proposal. You're giving them the monthly payments display versus showing the equipment cost. You've got an e-signature. And then on the follow up, you're really just having some digital interaction with the customer, no requirement to go back out to the home. And that group looks at that whole process that I outlined and says, is it convenient? Is it low friction? And is there speed to resolution? And if the contractor can answer that for that path B and they can still manage path A, then what's happening is it's what I will also coin as human when desired, digital when preferred.
Good.
And that distinction matters enormously if contractors want to win.
I think you already doing some of this stuff, right? You already have an omni-channel experience, or you have a call center, web page, and text-based booking system. If you put all this together, can you just see a difference on the loyalty and the repeat customers? Do you see more adoption or more loyalty on the relationship customers, or do you also see the same pattern on the digital customers too?
Look, the digital experience is not the human experience,
Yeah.
and it's not meant to be. It requires different things. However, there are elements of the digital experience that become paramount. A Google review or a Yelp review that was
Mm,
nice to have is now has to be infrastructure. It
mm,
has to be something tangible because in a digital experience, people can see what others say, but contractors struggle over that. They don't want the positive and the negative news out there. But if you're doing a lot of the right things and you're getting fairly good reviews, it has to become core to the way you're being perceived. It's
mm,
not just an add on, it's not a nice to
mm,
have, it just becomes who you are. Because, see, what I think is happening is brand identity is
mm,
becoming more paramount in this world. What is the reason that you want to do business with this particular contractor? And what I just shared with you is I kind of outlined what that human experience looks like, that process, and what the
mm,
and what the digital experience looks like. And I think if you do those in parallel, then what you're doing is you're strengthening the brand and you're obtaining positive feedback, whether it be in person when you go down the human path, and then it's digital. Does the customer have an outlet? And are you embracing what is said publicly? And are you building that brand? And this is all changing so fast. And it's very hard to measure how well doing it.
mm,
But what I have the confidence in particular is that we have these very bright people in our business, particularly on the marketing side, our marketing department in house, and then some of the resources that we engage externally to figure this out. And then what's happening is the operational groups that are out there, they have to own more of this than they traditionally have had to in the past
mm,
because they are managing the technicians and the comfort advisors and how they interact with those different behaviors out there. One of the things that I think our group has really spent a lot of time figuring out is what is going to be the way we go about training our people on a go forward basis. We're not going to do what we've always done because I always say we're going to get what we always got. Our operational teams were making investments and bringing the right people into the organization to
mm,
build new curriculums around this. And the ops team is taking ownership of it. And then the marketing team is trying to stay in front and just watch how this technology is just changing by the day. I'm amazed at it. I really am.
And Paul, you also told me that you are actually using AI a lot. You also many AI tools in your company and personally. I want to get your predictions about how can AI just help on the short term and also on the long term. AI is also changing rapidly, especially as a person in the Silicon Valley. I follow it very closely, but you're also very close in this area and using all of this. So I want to get your prediction. What can be done in the short term and what are the opportunities in the long term that AI can help in this industry?
So I think websites have been
Mm,
somewhat stagnant for quite some period of time. I think social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that kind of
mm,
just overshadowed websites. And I think
mm,
people, even myself, I'm guilty of this. We thought we needed a website, but what AI is doing today or can do today is the website is becoming the storefront and it's back. And so when you look at traditional websites, they were designed for SEO and lead forms and generic conversion. But what I see AI doing in this next generation of contractors is that the website will increasingly function like a retail storefront. It will offer third party financing and leasing
mm,
through a portal. there will be a schedule engine that integrates with your field service management system, like a Service Titan or a House Call Pro. And then you're going to have this whole sort of trust platform and education hub and all these things. And as I look around and I see what some of our peers are doing in the industry, they're adding online booking to the websites. They've got
Mm.
financing calculators. They've got monthly payment examples. The better ones are putting their technician videos out there. They're driving information around the service
Mm.
agreements and the memberships and the reviews. And then you've got this AI assisted chat, and you've got
Mm.
instant quote ranges. That is all going to revolutionize the website. So that's an immediate thing that we have to be cognizant of. I also see that AI is going to support financing and
Mm.
leasing. And that's going to kind of bridge where these two types of buyers come together. Because let's be honest, in a relationship buyer situation and a digital buyer situation, everybody wants affordability
Mm.
and is it clear, payment visibility, and then financing or leasing simplicity. It's okay if the relationship buyer still wants something explained personally. But what your question was, where is AI just going to have the impact now? I think it's just going to revolutionize the websites to a point where it's going to make it easy for both buyers. And then whatever buyer it really ultimately ends up being, we will have parallel paths that support those types of buyers. And then AI is really going to accelerate things because we know that the digital buyer wants instant answers. They want 24/7 responsiveness. They're not going to sit around and wait. They want more and more automated communication. And meanwhile, the relationship buyers, they just want reassurances, they want expertise, they want human trust. So what's going to happen is the really good contractors, and I am hoping that we are going to lead in this sort of category, is that, and that we win at it, is that we will likely use AI to augment humans, not
Mm.
replace them. And
Mm.
I think that is ultimately critical.
Yeah, especially current AI technology is more like an assistive. So actually using them to empower people is the best one. So although some industries trying to replace people, in some industries it's possible. For example, in my industry as a software is the where the AI actually makes the huge difference, replacing some engineers, especially the entry-level engineers. So far we talk about mostly on the top of the funnel, or how AI will impact the experience just on the booking, the revenue side. What do you think on the operational side? I think there's some opportunity also over there. Everybody's first top of the mind thing in this scenario is about the growth. But now the efficiency will be also important since you're just paying more on the leads. There will be a push on the margin. So people want to create more efficiency and increase the profitability. So how do you think the AI will help on the operation side and the cost side?
Yeah, it's going to require, in some cases, a different company structure. And I think we're already doing it. I see our team making strategic decisions on who's doing work around data analytics or call center sophistication and CRM automation. And we're going through these AI engagement tools, financing integration. And what I said earlier is the ops team still has to
Mm.
own the revenue. They just can't be focused on
Mm.
generating EBITDA. What they're looking at is AI is going to revolutionize technician sales enablement because 80% of what gets sold out there gets sold through a technician, right? So
Yeah.
this is where AI can make their lives maybe a little bit easier. And sophisticated groups are investing heavily to their field service management. When I think about what our teams are doing with Service Titan, we've made strategic hires with people where Service Titan is in their day-to-day acumen of how to
Mm,
do their job and run the business. They know how to handle customer segmentation, outbound automation, financing work,
mhm,
and AI customer communication. These are all things that are making the operation more efficient. So we're in that early stage of evolving from just a service contractor into a hybrid home services retail platform. And this is where efforts on the revenue side and the operational side merge, because you just can't win when you have the best
mm,
technicians or you're the biggest advertiser in your market. The companies that really win going forward get it right, balancing what AI they put in the operations, what AI they put at the top of the funnel. But the companies that really remove that friction that I mentioned earlier, meaning the buying friction, but yet they preserve trust, are the ones that are probably going to end up winning. And that's what I see is that combo is where those next generation of HVAC market leaders are going to emerge, is where they get that right, is that there's better balance because it's fun and it's exciting to go all in on one thing, but you have to think about if you make a change on the top of the funnel, how does it affect the bottom of the funnel? If you make a
mm,
change at the bottom of the funnel, does it affect sales? Right. So I often subscribe to slower, more methodical integration, implementation, thinking through the whole funnel is important. But where it all starts is understanding, do you understand how people want to buy? Because a digital buyer wants to move fast. A relationship buyer doesn't necessarily want to move that fast. And when they
mm.
do want to move that fast, does your process facilitate the ability in a very human interaction to do that? And that's where AI is transforming operations, because the things that AI can do that our in-house staff is only capable of doing a fraction of, like mining your existing customer base to see how many customers have a replacement system that's probably due that we installed 8 years ago, but the person that's actually in the office is wearing 5 different hats and they can't get to all those customers. So we have to figure out how AI fits in to augment them, enable them, and make them super efficient so that maybe when they wake up in the morning, they have 5 or 6 different opportunities that they can marshal the team out there to go capture.
Good. So you mentioned mining customers. So Satin is widely used in this industry. We also mentioned that utilization is less than 10%. So people can do more, but they're just using as the system of records, but maybe not mining thing. As a data platform, we are in this industry. So we also see that people use data for finance or some technician scorecards or maybe some other reportings, but we don't see that they're trying to create new customers out of data, like you mentioned. Do you think that it will be the next generation lead gen engine? Because now the existing customers will be the main drive for this industry. Do you think that the data and AI will be more crucial in this part?
I think that anyone that's made the investment in a field service management system called in the last 5 years needs to cultivate that existing customer base for opportunities. I think that's a big miss if they don't. A lot harder for newer contractors because they haven't amassed the number of customers. Look, Service Titan is a very powerful system, and field service management in general has revolutionized how we handle dispatch, customer service. But I think what we first spoke, I mentioned that the utilization of something like Service Titan is often lower than one might expect because you have an
Mhm.
adoption issue that you have to work through. You have training that you need to work through. And then there are applications within Service Titan where contractors have made decisions to not bite off more than they can chew. And then sometimes we become more complacent and we've got 2 or 3 applications that we use in Service Titan, and then we just choose not to do anything more. So that utilization, I don't think is 10% for a customer, You might bump into a contractor that is on Service Titan or a House Call Pro or Service Fusion, and they're using
Mm,
half of what it can technically do. And I understand why that occurs. But I think what people need to understand is the opportunity or the nugget that is sitting right in front of them. And so I use that example that if you, as the contractor, installed a system 8 to 10 years ago, and you were to map all your customers against the average life of a typical system, you may find that those systems that you did 8 or 10 years ago are due for replacement. And it begs the question whether some AI algorithm can go into your field service management system and publish those opportunities to you and tell you, hey, this looks like a good opportunity to reach out to the customer. And it's likely that customer may not even be a service agreement customer. It's someone that you haven't spoken to in 8 or 10 years. And they may be price shopping right now. They may have gone and got a replacement system from another contractor. So the power is in the data. And that's where contractors have to become very data driven operators.
mm,
And that will change the way you grow, or even if it's just a way to maintain any reduction in your business throughout the year. If the economy's down or whatever, it costs a lot of money to advertise, right? It's a
mhm,
very expensive proposition. Why not take advantage of the people that you've already provided, call it customer first mentality to? They bought into your legacy or your brand, and it's sitting right there, and you're not doing anything with it. And I think that's a real change for people is, hey, that sounds like a great idea, but how do you actually act on that? And
mhm,
there are some AI products out there that can do this for you, but you have to be committed to, right? And committed to having the operations team and the sales teams work together to make the most of that application. I think there's a balance between getting user adoption on your field service management system and then balancing it with using AI products in concert with that. But I think when you use them together, it can be a pretty powerful tool.
yeah, and you also mentioned in the previous call that the average age in this industry is 42. So, do you think that it makes the adoption easier or harder for the AI? For example, from my perspective, interacting with the computer for us is just writing the code. It requires a special education and practice, years of learning software development, and people are using the user interface that we were developing. But now with the AI, the natural language comes into the game. You interact with the computer with talking. So all the barriers are now very low to interact with the software and the computer. When we see that many of our customers use natural language to build tools for their companies. And do you think that the mindset blocks the people to adapt to AI? Or do you think that there's still a technical barrier for them to get into AI more?
For anybody who's over the age of 42, they're probably not going to like what I say. My belief is that those that have not embraced technology that are still out there working for companies like ours, that's never going to change. I think that over time, that resistance will go away via natural attrition and that the new way of doing things will take over. But it's not going to be in my lifetime. I think it's going to take quite a while for people to embrace AI because until I can see factually how people adopt SaaS, I'm not so sure AI just takes over and everybody says, oh, AI is the way of the future. I'll just
Mm.
adopt it. People just don't like change. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. So
Yes.
I will tell you, I use AI every day, and AI makes me more efficient, makes me more knowledgeable. It has been a saving grace in many ways for a lot of people. And I love what it does. And if it takes a 42-year-old person and AI changes them, great. Then the world's better off. But I still think in a business like ours that is still very mechanical in nature, the evolving of the equipment and the things that we do where it's more communicating in nature and requires some sort of computer based knowledge, that's going to keep happening. But the mechanical equipment doesn't go away tomorrow. We still need
Yes.
a condenser, we still need a coil, we still need an air handler. Somebody's got to put that work in, somebody's got to replace that stuff. So I think we have to be realistic in what the expectations are for adoption across multiple pieces of technology. What AI is doing a little bit differently is that for the first time, it's really, truly intuitive. Meaning somebody can liaise with it, like you were saying, verbally, and it'll give them something. It's different. SAS was great. You could customize a SAS program on the fly. In some cases, the customer could do it. But when you talk about a technician who's selling something to a customer, when the customer asks a question about something like, hey, what does an average indoor air quality system cost? And let's just say, for whatever reasons, we can't answer right then and there. That technician could walk out to his truck, put that question in AI, read it, answer it in a very simplistic way, and educate the customer. Whereas
Mhm.
it's different when you write that into Google and you get some sort of response that may or may not hit, and then you got to search more. Think about the time and the energy to do that in a typical Google search versus an AI search.
Yeah.
So I also think that the way we act as people outside of work and the way we work, it's synonymous. So now, if I want to look up the new schedule from the team that I root for, instantaneously I can say, what's the schedule for this team? And it gives me everything in seconds so fast. And then I can do so many things with it. I can say, oh, can I get tickets to this game? It's very exciting to see how powerful it is.
Mm.
And it's really doing the thinking for anybody. People still have to perform, but it's just an aggregator that is so powerful that it really makes the difference day to day for how people can perform doing what they need to do personally and professionally.
Got it. So, yeah, you brought some insight from the field. Then let's go back to the field side. For myself, whenever I actually want to fix something, I try to do myself, going to the AI tools, just ask, okay, how can I fix this? Or even if I just call a technician, I want to be prepared for that. Now the users are also training themselves easily because it's actually so easy to reach that kind of information. Does this thing affect your business in a positive way? The customers actually know what they want, or in a bad way, so they're just maybe just creating wrong things.
That's a tough question. It's how you approach it, it's how you embrace it, it's how you train on it. There are a lot of great tools out there, but at the end of the day, it still takes people. And people are strange creatures. And they're sometimes fast to adopt, slow to adopt. It's a real tough one. Again, this is all moving so incredibly fast. There are plenty of people that see the positives, and there are people that don't like change that see the negative. And then there's people that are required to balance those feelings
Mhm.
and think through what is the best way to increase adoption and user friendliness and all that kind of stuff. Like with any process of change, it needs thought. But that thought comes from people. No technology, as far as I'm concerned, in the trades is really going to replace people from making decisions and committing to things.
Mm.
So I think people just have to see what is the value proposition for using a tool. It's a big question that I ask some of these AI groups that I speak to. Why is yours different than this one? And they all have answers. I'm not so sure what's the right answer, but you have to really think through. When technology started coming into the trades, we had to think about how people would react. Is this really a management tool or a management technology? Or is this something that makes me better at my job? I think that same question still exists today. Is this going to make me better or is this going to make management happier?
Good. So yeah, so we're coming to end of our conversation. So before, yeah, let you go, I want to ask, what's gonna be replaced with AI in this industry? So what's gonna be better? We just talk everything, but maybe you can summarize it. Maybe you can put something actually very controversial over here. So what's gonna be replaced and what's gonna stay?
Sure. Generally, if you look at an organizational structure in a typical trade
Mm,
company like ours, I think an IT department is something of the past. We've seen over the years more managed service providers come in and take over that work anyways. I think this is just the next step where IT departments really don't exist in a company anymore
mm,
because I think AI technology has justified that it can do what you need to do. And if it doesn't, there's an MSP like we use that can handle that type of work. In the short term, that is a good example of something that really changes. I'm not so sure there's a lot of other areas that just get
mm,
replaced by AI tomorrow, but there are jobs that are certainly going to be repurposed. There
mm,
are some that will be at risk. And I think as I look at the finance world, there will be jobs that are at risk and that will go away, but they will
mm,
be repurposed, and some of the finance jobs that we historically saw will become more data driven analytical jobs. So it could almost look like a combination of an operational finance type person, but it's not just straight finance or it's not just straight accounting with credits and everything. There's another role there. So I think we have to be honest with ourselves that every department that's historically been around will start to change. Some jobs will be at risk, some will be repurposed, but the smart operators and the highest performing platforms like ours, we're going to operate like a true operational company. We're going to operate like a marketing company, a financing company,
mm.
a data driven company. And we got to do that all at once. And it's not easy because that's
Yeah.
really the future of, call it residential HVAC. The industry is really moving away from who buys the most leads wins, right? The distinction is becoming really massive for margin quality and reoccurring revenue, platform scalability. Can our platform continue to grow? And you got to be somewhat resilient against AI driven search disruption. And that needs to be like a core component as we outline our strategic plan is how do we become resilient? If this whole ChatGPT Google debate is real and it's disrupting, how do we navigate it? Because if we have such Google dependency and we don't get out in front of it, the value of our company drops, in my opinion. We're going to go out there, and I think we got the right team. We're going to own the customer databases that we
Mm,
have. We're going to embrace financing. We're going to embrace customers' engagement and get them utilizing our membership programs. The automation is going to make us really good at follow up. We're going to ultimately move faster than some of our competitors. The legacy brands that we've invested in, they're going to be even more recognizable because we're going to focus on that brand identity, like I talked about at the top of the call. And we're going to use AI operationally as well as for sales before some of our competitors do. And that should give us an edge. And that's okay.
yeah. So, Paul, thank you so much. So many insights, so many predictions, and also use cases that AI can be leveraged in this industry. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope everybody will enjoy it as well. So, thank you very much. So, I don't know if you have something to say, but yeah, I just want to thank for everything.
thank you for Mustafa for having me on and recognizing Columbia Home Services and what we're doing in the space. Definitely happy to be a team member there, and we look forward to what the future brings us. And we'll see where this AI path takes us, but it's exciting. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate the conversation and all the insights. So thank you and goodbye.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.